I I could do one.
Sure. Okay.
I haven't looked at this situation. I haven't done a worksheet on it, and it happened 5 years ago. And I, my uncle, when he passed on, he bequeathed like 18 people, a little bit of his estate, and in my cousin, who was my age, was the executor, and he was the um, he what was it? Not the executor, but it's the power of attorney. And anyway, he anyway, there's a lot of things that he did that was very uh, deceitful. And so we took him, myself and my other two cousins took him to court, and it was supposed to be a real short time turnaround, and I just feel very frustrated. It's 5 years and it's closing up, and he's not paying up. I mean, he just took every single turn that he could do and stalled it to the end and made up excuses. I mean, our lawyers, our lawyer couldn't believe he thought it was going to be a year and a half turnaround, and they've never had a case like this. So I'm very, I mean, I grew up, with my cousin. Um, it's just I just feel like my cousin is deceitful or a thief.
Hmm. Okay. Well, we can do the work on that. Um,
Is a cheat or whatever. I mean, he took advantage of he just took advantage of um, all of us.
yeah, that's a good one right there. He took advantage of all of us. What feels closer to you to what is causing the feeling of stress for you? That he's deceitful, he's a thief, he took advantage of all of us.
Yeah, he took advantage of all of us.
Okay, so let's look at it. What's the situation that you're like, what's the moment that you can anchor in as you're looking at this?
Um, when he sent out the a letter that said you need to sign this and get this back in. This is 5 years ago. Get this back into the attorney, and he kind of really pushed it fast, and everybody signed except us, because we're saying, hey, we got some questions. So we questioned it, and he was pretty. He couldn't answer the questions that we had, and he justified that everything he did was right. And that's the situation. Talking to
Oh,
him and the original attorney.
okay. So he took advantage of all of you. Is that true?
Yes.
And can you absolutely know it's true? He took advantage of all of you?
Yeah. It was proven in a court of law.
Okay. So how do you react? What happens when you think this thought? He took advantage of all of us.
Um, I feel like this. I uh, I feel taken advantage of. I feel um, that he really to know somebody in my life and not and have them do this just kind of blows me away. And it makes me more guarded, feeling more guarded around people. There's a lot of scammers out. I get scammed myself, and it's just like, God, it's a wicked world out there.
Mm.
And um, yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't ever want to see him again, and it really changed the dynamics of all the cousins. They're kind of against us because we should have rolled with it, and so it's really sad. I feel sad that it happened, and yeah, and I'm really pissed off at my cousin, and I'm mad at the original attorney because he was rolling with it too. So yeah,
Mm.
I just felt taken advantage of, and I guess the past image would be of my uh, I don't know. I kind of go back to my dad. I don't really have a specific situation, but um, just and the way he was with his alcoholism and just kind of taking advantage of me.
Yeah. How do you treat your cousin specifically, either in person or in your mind, when you think he took advantage of you?
Um, well, I treat him. Uh, I'm disgusted with him, and uh, he's he. I'm appalled by him, and I don't want to see him again. I mean, he just really, yeah, he just really caused changed the whole family dynamics. And so I sent a Christmas card to his dad, and um, but I, won't send one to him.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's very dramatic, but it's
Well,
uh,
it's
yeah. I mean, sometimes I just like to stop by and just chew them out, but um, I don't want to get arrested or anything. But anyway, I mean, it's not gonna help any, I know. And
right. But
I
this
mean, I could
is
write him a letter, and his view is different than my view.
But that what we're seeing is how you react, and even though you don't do anything, the thoughts come sometimes. I'd like to just chew them out or write him a letter or do something like that. And then of
Yeah,
course you don't, which is fine, but we're just noticing the effect of the thought. When you think he took advantage of all of us, there's a desire to say something or to cut him out or um, any of those things. So it's
yeah,
reaction. Yeah.
yeah.
So who would you be without the thought? He took advantage of all of us. Even though it was proved in a court of law, so there's actual strong evidence there. Who would you be if you weren't dwelling so strongly on this thought that he took advantage of all of us?
I would feel. I mean, I'd be more uh, open with the other cousins and not feel almost in some way have to justify myself or prove myself to them. Um, and part of me almost feels a little ashamed because uh, I did this to him. I mean, that's kind of the impression I get from other cousins. Like, I should have just rolled with it. And um, yeah. So who would I be without that thought? Boy, that's a good one because it's been in my mind for 5 years now,
Hmm.
present, and uh, I would think of my cousin as he was just trying to uh, um, he was just trying to um, make ends meet, and he thought this was the best way. He thought it was a good situation that uh, he could stay in the house for 4 years and have all his, I mean, have things all paid for him, his room and board, and still get a stipend when my uncle was in a nursing home all that time. Um, so I would think that without that thought, I would just think he really thought that um, he truly believed what he did was right, and that, yeah. And so, wow, this is just a hard one for me.
It is a
Um,
hard one. Yeah.
uh,
We're looking at a fact, right?
yeah,
There's a certain factualness to this, but the question can still be played with, and that is, who would you be if you weren't thinking about that so much? If it wasn't on your mind so much that he took advantage of all of us, if you weren't so,
well, when I eventually get the money, even though it's not a lot, but when I eventually get it, I'll be open, and I feel really good for about myself for standing up for what I think is right, regardless of how much work went into it.
yeah,
Um, and I would see the honesty in people, and and my interactions on the computer, and see that there's just so much of that out there. It's just those little points, people or whatever. It's just such a small amount that there's so much good out there. And I like to focus on that because I feel a lot better when I think about that. It's just that little dot here and there, black dot here. And, you know, so I'm focusing on the good, and I'm focusing on all the people that I know, and looking them in the eyes, and seeing the kindness and the love and the honesty that they have.
yeah. So
Yeah.
all of that gets eclipsed when you think about how he took advantage of all of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. That's kind of like, instead of a little dot, it's a big dot. So it really puts it into perspective, um,
Yeah,
that this is just a one case, one case, one thing that happened.
yeah.
It's not
It's,
compared to my whole life. It's like 1%.
it's not that it didn't happen. We're not pretending that it didn't happen. It did. It's just that where is your attention? Is it on that? And is it everything getting blacked out because of that? Or is it moving more freely in all the other places that are um, okay? So this is what I mean by who would you be without the thought he took advantage of all of us?
Yeah. Yeah. My focus would be, um, this is just a incident that happened, and my attention would be on seeing the good in people and in myself. I don't know if that's specific enough, but
Yeah.
um,
And even when you look at him specifically, what do you see when you look at him without this thought blocking him out completely? Is it what do you see if you move it to the side a little bit, even though it's connected with him? Can you see anything about him that you weren't without the thought that he took advantage of all of us?
um, could I see any? Would I see him differently if I didn't have
Mm,
this?
basically, yeah.
Um, um, I would. Yeah, I could see him as. Uh, I could see him as someone who thought he was helping out my uncle, and that he deserved the stuff that he did. Is that kind of, am I getting off of on that thought? That's where would I be without that thought?
Yeah, that's what we're looking at. Where would you be
Yeah.
without that thought when you look at him and you're starting to see him, like right now, you've been defining him as the deceitful one, the thief, the person who took advantage of all of us. But if that one defining characteristic isn't the only thing defining him, if that isn't your only vantage point, what do you see when you look at that cousin?
Well, you mean like what are the things I admire in him, or I could,
Could be that. It could be even in the situation of him being a thief. But it could be broader than that as well, wherever your mind goes.
well, I'm stumped on the one about him being a thief, unless he just, I mean, I appreciate him for stepping up and helping my uncle at the beginning,
Hmm.
and the attention. Um, yeah, that's something,
Hmm.
because my uncle never married.
So, with the thought, he took advantage of all of us, it's not even possible to see that. Or if you see it, it becomes so discounted that it doesn't register almost. But if the mind isn't so attached on he took advantage of all of us, there is the seeing how he did step up there, even
Hmm.
though he did end up taking advantage. Like the two aren't mutually exclusive. They're starting to see something more than just the thief or just the deceit.
Okay.
I think of myself like that when I do something maybe wrong or not what I would approve of, um, the mind likes to say, that's who I am, right? I'm a thief or I'm deceitful or I am. But without that thought, that's just an action I did, regrettably, but it's not the whole of me.
Yes. So I guess it's not the whole of him. The deceitful part. It's that he helped move my uncle from California to Iowa, and set up getting a house for him. I mean, helping him pick a house out. So that was, really. Uh, so I appreciate that he did that. Um, and he's done other stuff in his life, uh, that he that he's worked with young people. He's an electrical engineer, and so he, has helped them do the robotic kind of things that they do, the um, for tournaments and stuff like that. So I know that he has a heart there, and um, yeah, and I know this is for me, uh, um, softening my heart for him, um, whether he knows it or not. Uh, yeah, yeah, because I've been pretty stuck in trying to just keep, camaraderie with the other two cousins. We just slam them and all this stuff, and it's just definitely a change in attention.
Yeah. He is
Yeah,
now, or has been for some years now, defined as the person who took advantage of us. And
yeah,
so, but what we're seeing as you're just exploring this a little bit without the thought that he took advantage of us, even though he did, but without that thought, there's just a little more view from behind that black mark, a little more view of who he is that is bigger than just that action, even though it was not a good action.
Yeah.
So, how would you turn the thought around? He took advantage of all of us.
He didn't take advantage of all of us.
Okay, how could that be as true without changing the facts or without going into some kind of unreality? Is there any way that that could make any sense for you?
Because he was by visiting my uncle. He put him in the same town as him, so he visited him weekly. So that wasn't taking advantage of us.
Okay. Yeah.
Even though he did get a big payoff for doing that.
Right. But
But
they're actually,
he did visit our
yeah,
uncle.
those two can coexist. He
Huh.
took advantage of us and he didn't take advantage of us. And in that particular regard, he was almost serving the whole family by helping take care of the uncle. But he also did take advantage, right? This
Yeah.
is the wiggle room we're looking for.
This
It's
is
not
a
all or
good
nothing.
exercise because part of me just wants to stop because it's really, it feels
Of
really
course.
hard for me to
This
do
is
this.
hard. You picked a
I'm
hard
gonna
one.
I'm gonna stuff it back down.
You can
No, I don't
always
want
do that. You
to.
can
No, I
always
don't
do
want
that.
to. Yeah,
Yeah.
I almost like kind of get the heebie-jeebies even thinking about this, but I'm gonna go
Well, it
ahead
goes
and
against what you've gotten focused on, right? This is like Byron Katie sometimes says, we're going against your religion. You know, my religion is he's bad. He did something bad. He took advantage of us. And we're challenging that in a gentle way, but it's a challenge. So it doesn't, the key that I think is so important to hold is that we're not trying to minimize or trying to take away the fact that he did something deceitful. It's just, is that the whole story? And is there any way that he maybe didn't take advantage of us as well?
thank you. Um, so he didn't have us do any. He didn't have us step up or to help our uncle. Um, he could have and then still taken advantage of us. It's not like nobody said, okay, I'll do this every other week. Randy said, my
Yeah.
cousin said you don't have to do it. So he took it all on himself. Um, we didn't have to pay any money or anything to help our uncle out. We didn't have to. He set it up so there's flowers sent to our uncle every week, and we didn't have to do that. Um, and um, that's probably it for there. I know we're getting a little
Okay.
low on time, so I could go
Yeah.
ahead and do this worksheet. I'll do a worksheet
So
on this.
you're doing quite well. If you have a couple extra minutes, we can do
Oh yeah,
another turnaround if you'd like.
sure.
So he took advantage of all of us. What would be another turnaround?
Well, let's see. Let me look at him first. I took advantage of all of us.
Okay, does that have any meaning for you?
Sure. We didn't have a group session saying, "Hey, we're going to take this to court. Does anybody disagree?" We just went ahead and did it. So
Hmm.
now we have held their money for 5 years,
Hmm.
um, and the payoff wasn't really that big because our cousin didn't pay everything he's supposed to do. What
It's a
the
great
court said.
example. Yeah, it just balances it again. It just,
I felt like
yeah,
I took advantage of our cousins, and I know they felt like we took advantage of them. We held
yeah,
their money hostage.
yeah,
And 5 years is a long time.
right. So this is how this turnaround helps to balance the original statement, which is he took advantage of us, which is true, but we
Yeah,
also did a little. It wasn't the same, but we did a little. We tied up the money for another 5 years,
yeah.
and so yeah, that's
And
all.
there have been 4 people that have passed of the
Wow,
18, so they never got
right,
to spend the money, and
right.
they could have used it. So that's another. I think that's
Good
kind of a
example.
guilt that I have of I took
And it doesn't
advantage.
even have to be uh, yeah, it's just noticing, right? That it, okay,
Yeah,
we all in our different ways, at least some have taken advantage in different ways, not even meaning to, but that's the way it worked out. And it can soften it. That's all. That's the only point of looking at that.
yeah.
And any other turnaround while we're here, he took advantage of all of us.
Um, I guess for the self, I took advantage of me.
Mm-hmm. Could that have any meaning?
Yes, it took a lot of my time at the beginning to write up like a sequence of events of what happened. It stressed me out. I took advantage of myself. It stressed me out to do that um, time wise. And, there's a lot of meetings and paper and court. It just, yeah, my time and the wait. It would have been a lot easier just to go ahead and uh, rolled with it at the beginning um, 5 years ago. So I took advantage of me. Um,
Mm.
does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And how about another turnaround? I took advantage of him. Is there any way that that can make sense in this situation?
Um, yeah, it's he's probably with some people come out as the bad guy. So I took advantage of his reputation, um, and also of the time that he put in to this case. I mean, he had to do stuff, and even just delaying it, I'm sure was stressful on his mind having to um, play that game, and
Mm.
having this hanging on him for 5 years instead of being a slam dunk. Um, that probably was very stressful for him, and changed his life in some way.
So it does, again, it's like the original statement can still be true. He took advantage of us. And here's where I did something to him too. And it's just good to see. That's all.
Yeah.
And I like where you went is almost a turnaround in and of itself. Somewhere in question 3, you said something like, uh, instead of he's taking advantage of us, or he took advantage of us, I kind of stood up for myself. So that's another way of looking at the same sequence of events. One is, oh, he took advantage of us. The other is, I stood up for myself. And that has a different flavor, a different interpretation
Yeah.
of the same exact situation.
Yeah, when we were going into this, we were talking us through, and said, there probably won't be a big advantage, but it's just the principle of it. And we were doing this just because we thought it was the right thing to do.
So that's enough, right? So
Yeah.
the mind likes to go even further than that and then push the other person down. But it's enough. I just did what I thought was right. And that's a good thing. So you can look at this whole situation as he took advantage of us, or you can look at this whole situation as I stood up for myself. And they're just really two different ways of seeing the same exact thing. But one is way more stressful than the other.
Yeah, I like that, Todd. That's really, a different focus.
Different
Wow.
focus.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what this work is about. Just a little different focus. We're not changing the reality at all. We're not changing the facts. We're not doing anything of that sort. We're just seeing, is there any way to look at it like from under here, or up here, or over there, that might be a more peaceful way of experiencing the same situation? That's all.
Thank you for seeing us through the end. The last couple of minutes, because is really a big.
It's a good one.
Aha for me. Yep.
Well, thank you for your work. Thank you for bringing it.
Thank you for facilitating it.
My pleasure.
Being there.